You could accept the fact that this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
We don't normally get this kind of action.
It's for us. It's just for
exciting.
us. This is the way our street is.
Oh, dear. It's because you guys are here.
It was a legitimate call. It made sense. It was pass interference. I don't care what anybody says.
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
You call runs when you're not supposed to, and Dak Prescott is throwing it in the dirt.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Noodles? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the No Show. We are ready to go, and just tomorrow night is the ultimate yearly event for the NFL, the NFL Draft of 2021.
Absolutely, it's going to be legendary. That's right. Wait
for it. Dairy.
Absolutely. It's the day of the year we all wait for, and are excited about. We get to see what our teams do now moving forward. We've been waiting all this time, hearing rumors, and now it's time. The NFL season is going to start, and we are going to select players to help out our team, and we're going to either bitch and complain about our owners and GMs, or we'll celebrate all together. So all we know is so far at this point that the Chiefs are not going to be selecting in the first round, and neither are the Texans as well.
Right.
They won't be selected until round 3. But I still am hearing rumors out there that they are still in talks with the Dolphins, even, and secretly trying to still maybe pull the trigger on that Tua trade. But as we all know, everything that's come out with all the allegations, him like that, and he still may receive suspensions and whatnot. That's very highly unlikely what they're going to get, especially with the equity that they want for it.
Yeah, it's all right now. It's all rumors and everything, so there's nothing concrete in terms of information. So, and it's just like the draft rumors that are now starting to circulate. There's a bunch of rumors floating around about all 32 teams right now. What are they going to do with their picks? Could they be eyeing a certain particular player that a lot of people might not expect? Could it be someone that you thought it was the whole time? We're going to find out tomorrow night. But before we get to that also is now that we've completed part 1 of the offseason, right? Free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Teams did what they had to do. They signed certain players to fill holes that were much needed. And now I think it's the more exciting part of the offseason is now the NFL draft, where we're going to be able to handpick prospects coming out of college that could ultimately help our franchises and boost them up for the following season.
Absolutely. We got Cody Raptors in the house with us tonight.
What's going on, Cody? Welcome to the show.
Dude, I got newer headphones because my headphones broken. It just, I don't know, it's messing with me. It sounds weird, but
okay.
I'm going to try and make it through, though. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
We didn't need to know about that.
Yeah, I'm
Jim.
sorry. It's just really bothering me. I figured people should know why I'm looking all weird and trying to adjust all the time here, but I don't know. Okay, so, a lot of stuff to talk about, but, the draft's coming up. Joe and I decided to, this year, do a mock draft. I know I am dead set against doing all those things all the time, and then finally he convinced me to break down and finally let's kick into a mock draft. So here we go. What our show tonight is about is that we are going to unveil our draft selections here in our mock draft, and then also we will take a look at what you guys have out there. So if you guys did a mock draft yourself, post it down there in the comments. We'll check it out. We can go along, and you can even in the comment section drop who you would select in this certain situation too, and certain pick when you go down through with us. So let's kick up the music here, Joe, and get this party started. Why not?
Real quick, we'll do a couple of shout-outs here. We Jim already mentioned Cody, but we also have James Collins watching us. We also have Josh Allen as well. And probably...
Oh, really? The Josh Allen?
It could be one of 2 Josh Allens out of the NFL watching our show tonight.
Oh, that would be amazing. I would like that so much. All right, so anyways, so that's it. We're doing our mock draft. And, Joe, let's get to the first team here. and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are on the clock, Joe. Who did we select now for the Jacksonville Jaguars? Is it going to be any type of surprise here? I know what Urban Meyer has come out and said everything and what he's down for and what the selection will be for them. But did we agree with who they said they will be selecting, Joe? So who do we have at number 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars? That's right.
For the Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, it's probably no secret. Oh, the pick is in, everybody.
The pick is in?
And it's going to end up being quarterback out of Clemson, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
shocker
yes,
for a lot of people out there. We know, I mean, the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence have been tied together at the hip from day one of the whole draft process. And Urban Meyer even kind of came out publicly and said, I love this kid. You know what I mean? He's everything that I want in a quarterback, and any franchise would be lucky to have him. So because they're picking first, they end up nabbing him.
All right, yeah, so that will bring up our number 2 selection now, Joe. Again, we've heard rumors about how much Joe Douglas is in love with Zach Wilson. So what are we going to do here? Are we sticking with that, or we've also thought about some of these other quarterbacks that are out there? Is it just a smokescreen for what the Jets are going to do?
Well, what the really weird thing is about Joe Douglas running the show is the last 6 years, out of the last 6 years, every first-round pick he's traded away from the organization. He's traded to some other team. So as an owner, like, you got to be a little concerned with this guy now, you know, going into this draft. Now you have 2 first-round picks. Is he going to botch both of them at this point? But picking 2 overall, now that they've decided to give up on the Sam Darnold quarterback, now they got to replace him. So picking at 2, it's an easy pick. You have to take the next greatest quarterback for your team. And right now, all signs point to none other than Zach Wilson.
Absolutely. So that's it. Zach Wilson here for the New York Jets. And again, I looked at tape on this guy too. I really like what he's got out there. Better than some of the quarterbacks we even saw in the last couple of drafts too. So for a guy that comes from a typical smaller school in a sense, it's
BYU,
Brigham Young, and it's just and not a lot of playtime out there. His sample size looks pretty decent. Plus, I like the wheels that he has on him too. It's very impressive. So I like it here for the Jets, especially where he might be scrambling a little bit here if they do not fix that offensive line situation.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it's not out of realm of possibility that Justin Fields could also be thrown into this mix too. I know Zach Wilson's been like the front runner this whole time, but it's the draft, everybody. We're going to be surprised on a couple of picks this year.
All right, that will bring up the San Francisco 49ers here, and again the smoke screen out there or not, we're not sure. We're hearing they traded up in this whole deal to sign up and get Mac Jones, but we've seen him at other, visiting everybody else's pro day. But now, recently, this past week, we've heard Trey Lance is in the situation now too as well. What do you guys think out there? Where do you think San Francisco will go in this? You don't trade up that high unless you are going to get one of these quarterbacks.
One of the top tier ones too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Across the board, everybody has ranked the top 5 quarterbacks, if you will, and it's always been Trevor Lawrence at number 1, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields are at number 2, and then you have Mac Jones, which is the next quarterback available. So if the Niners traded up in the whole time with the idea of taking Mac Jones at 3 overall, I think that was a little too rich. They didn't need to trade up that far. They could have traded with someone like the Detroit Lions at 7, or even the Carolina Panthers at 8, and still get a guy like Mac Jones. We think that with this pick, there's been a lot of debate too inside behind closed doors with the organization, with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Now they're trying to figure out what quarterback is the right quarterback for us moving forward with Shanahan's offense. So is the pick in yet?
The
pick going to come in yet?
Is in now. So what are the San Francisco 49ers going to go with, Joe?
All right, so it's going to be quarterback, everybody. Shocker, but it's not going to be Mac Jones. We feel that it's going to be Justin Fields in the end.
Fields going in at number
Ohio
3.
State.
That's who we have at number 3 here.
There's a few ideas that we were thinking about with this pick right here for the 49ers. It's really because when you're picking that high, you got to really nail this pick. You don't want to leave it up to chance or anything like that. We know Trey Lance is in that conversation of possibly being taken as well. But Justin Fields is just a proven commodity. He's played in all the big games. He played against tremendous competition for 3 years in his career, and there wasn't any kind of major slip-ups in his game. Yes, there's been times when he's been criticized for trying to throw to only the number one receiver that he sees, But I feel like over time, with his talent that he has, and oh my God, talk about mobility. You think Zach Wilson's mobile, but this guy runs a 4.40. So with Kyle Shanahan's offense and his mobility and his brain as a quarterback and his throwing arm, his accuracy, all that all together, I think it's almost it reeks. Justin Fields has to go to the Niners.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you discussed the facts that were coming out. He, again, is saying about the epilepsy. He takes medication for it, but I mean, you've seen game tape of him. It's not like he's dropping into a seizure during any of these games. Somebody does. So I don't think any of he shouldn't really fall on some of these drafting boards in the first round, and people worried about things like that. He's been dealing it with his whole life, and said had to have a problem since at 8 years old. So, I mean, that for a reason too is why we didn't drop him so far on our board. And then also, I think again, I don't know if I fully buy in on what Kyle Shanahan's trying to tell us, because when he gets on the microphone and stuff, he tries to be sly and tricky with his words and here and there and lead you in different spots. So I think there's a bigger story that's not being told in this whole thing. So I think he is really all in on Justin Fields. All right, so that brings us to Cody Raptor. That's what it brings us to. Cody Raptor is in the house.
Wow.
Bringing up his first. So he's like, first one we got different. He goes, I think it should be Fields, but I think Mac Jones will be who they pick. Personally, he's not a big fan of Mac Jones because his receivers are the top 2 receivers in the draft this year, and his running back is also number 1. How could he not have good stats? Yeah.
He could be inconsistent and not accurate. That's one way.
Right.
He could make mistakes throwing the football. I mean, there's a lot of different ways.
So then, Cody, you're just following the cookie crumbs, I guess, into what they're leading us into. What they're saying is that that he just likes Mac Jones, and that's where they're going with. It could be just as simple as that. And that's the thing about these things. I mean, you didn't know. You don't know. People, again, until the night before, like around this time, a couple years ago, Baker Mayfield all of a sudden bounced into the situation at number 1, and we were
not Sam Darnold.
Yeah, not Sam Darnold. It was
Sam
Darnold the whole way, and then now it came out something different. Right. So we will see. That's what I mean. This next 24 hours is going to be pretty exciting.
And I'll tell you right now, they could take it right down to the last minute.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They will still.
It's a big decision.
That's what's funny about some of these ones. Those early picks, they get so long, and you're kind of expecting that's where they're going to go, but then all of a sudden,
wait. They could be listening to trades. There might be a team that wants to blow them away with a trade or something like that. So a lot of times that's why you see even though the team has pretty much already decided who they're taking at whatever pick they're at, that's why you see that clock kind of being used almost to the end, is because they're getting phone calls or they're making their own phone calls, maybe trying to trade out as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And all right, so that brings up the next team, and that brings up the Atlanta Falcons on the clock, Joe. When we took a look at the Falcons, again, the only way it made sense that they go, say, like O-line or maybe the defense, what they really need to fix, is if they traded back a little bit, found a trade partner to move back. If you picked some of those guys at this particular spot, it seemed like a little early. So I think if you traded back, you would get maybe a better selection value out of that pick. So when we took a look at this, what other needs do they really have that could really excel and help this team out?
Well, now that we know that it's pretty much a shoo-in that they're not moving on from Matt Ryan, so that was a lot of speculation early on in the draft process. That maybe they take a quarterback here, they could groom him under Matt Ryan. It's still not out of the realm of possibility. That very well could still happen. A guy like maybe Trey Lance for Atlanta Falcons, a guy that isn't ready right away, but maybe with a year or two under Matt Ryan, he could be the next franchise quarterback for Atlanta. However, the pick is in, everybody. But Atlanta Falcons, with this pick, they select Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida.
There you go.
Kind of like a lot of draft experts and a lot of people that like to do these prospect rankings and what have you. A lot of them have Kyle Pitts either the first player off the board or the second. So there's a lot of teams and organizations that feel the same way about this guy, that he's a generational talent. I know it says he's a tight end, but literally this guy is like a wide receiver in a tight end's body. You could literally put him in the slot, outside, in the tight end position. He can do it all. So they're going to add a very explosive tight end in Kyle Pitts and a guy who's going to be a lethal weapon for them. Also, on the other hand, why we both kind of talked about this pick and what they might do with it if they don't take quarterback is Arthur Smith, the new coach for the Atlanta Falcons. He loves to utilize double tight ends. And as of right now, they have Hayden Hurst as their starter. Now you put Kyle Pitts with him and guys that you can move around in this offense. That could create some chaos.
Absolutely. Like I said, it only made sense if they trade out of this to get some of the other needs that they had.
Just because the value isn't there to take
right,
those secondary
absolutely.
pieces.
But then again, like when we discussed it again, and there was some debate about this one, because again, I wasn't sure what they really needed as another weapon here. But we looked at Arthur Smith, first-time head coach now for the Atlanta Falcons, but a lifer tight ends coach, assistant coach for many regimes over there in Tennessee. And finally got an OC job here and there. Loves to run the two tight end sets as well. Has been familiar with a lot of good tight ends to roll in through there on his offense. And like you said, but not even exactly a tight end. So you've got Hayden Hurst on the one side, who is a receiving tight end, but a better blocker than what you would say would be Kyle Pitts. But out there, another weapon, and that gives them room in case, because you're hearing that they maybe want to unload Julio Jones. But they have to have him on the roster. They can't do it until after a specific date. So if they get this weapon here and there, they can still move Julio Jones around too as well if they wanted to do that.
So for Julio Jones in that situation, there's been rumors that teams have been calling up. They're interested in trading for Julio Jones. The thing is that what makes this whole situation really tricky is they can't trade for picks currently.
Right.
They have to, in order to offset the salary cap and offset the amount of money that's going to have to be paid for Julio Jones this year on their books, they need future consideration. They need future draft picks. So are teams willing to give up future draft picks for a aging, don't get me wrong, still plays out of his mind even at his age. What is he, 33? 32?
So. He's up there.
He's in the early 30s, but
just one second.
But nonetheless,
32.
Also a guy who has been hampered by injuries too. So it's like it's going to be really tough to do. It can be done, but it's going to be really tough to do. Also with this pick, we wouldn't be shocked as if Atlanta went Penei Sewell with this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that brings up the Bengals here. Now, the Bengals are on the clock, Joe. A team to where I think Zach Taylor needs to step up here, or else he might start. You might still hear questions about maybe potential hot seat for him.
I don't think. I think it's a little too early, maybe a year too early for that just now.
I don't know,
because Joe Burrow just got there. That
maybe
offense,
gives it a little longer.
That offense
that
still has to be built around Joe Burrow, and that's really the whole reason why they brought him in. So he's going to improve this offense. And with this pick, it's interesting because now you have sitting here, you got Penei Sewell, who you could really bolster your offensive line. You got any wide receiver weapon that at your disposal that you can pick. You can go any kind of different way. But what really is looking more likely is that the Bengals are either going to add an offensive weapon or bolster that offensive line, because that's what they need the most right now.
Absolutely. And when you break down this team, you take a look at what their needs and things, and they have a few here and there. And where do you go? You look for value too. What will be better for you? And you look at some of the things they pulled, some of the guys they pulled in to be like stopgap situations, especially here on offensive line to help out Joe Burrow. So then we switched our gears to a weapon, because you see they lost a few different guys. I mean, AJ Green, he wasn't as productive for them anyways, and he wanted out. And John Ross wasn't really working out for them either. They still got Tyler Boyd there, and they really like Auden Tate and T. Higgins too as well. But how about another weapon here for them? How is it going to work out for them? And we went with what do we got here, Joe? Let's go with the pick. The pick is in, and
the pick is wide receiver Jamar Chase.
That's right.
Wide receiver at LSU. In my eyes, Jamar Chase is the number one wide receiver coming out. I don't think it's really that close. The guy's going to be an absolute difference maker. Not to mention, is the Bengals end up bringing Jamar Chase and teaming him back up with his quarterback from LSU in Joe Burrow. So a marriage made in heaven right here. Joe Burrow would be ecstatic if this happened. And
it just made sense, too.
One other reason why we went with more of an offensive weapon versus the offensive lineman in like a guy like Penei Sewell here is because when you look at what they did in the past draft, they drafted Jonah Williams to play left tackle for them. And he missed the whole last season, so we never even really got to see what he could do. He returns healthy back this year. Also, they went out in free agency and they signed a veteran right tackle in Riley Reif. So by doing that move right there, it showed us that maybe they weren't really looking in the draft for offensive tackle, and now they just want to surround Joe Burrow with more talent.
Absolutely. And then now that brings up the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are on the clock. So far, what do you guys have out there? Let us know, too, as well. So far, how are you doing out there with picks? Are you lining up what we got? Do you think we're crazy for some of the things we picked so far? Let us know in the comments.
Shout out to Robert Silva, who's now watching with us.
All right.
Welcome to the show, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody, if you're new to the show or anything, feel free. If you like what you see, if you like what we're talking about here, we are also interactive. You go ahead and make comments down below. We will interact with them no matter what. And you can follow us on YouTube or Facebook. Search us up on Football on the Know Show. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube and the notification bell, if you will. And also become a member on Facebook and become a know-it-all.
Absolutely. We're on every platform. So if you're around on YouTube or whatever, you can find us there. So, all right. So that brings us up to Miami. And again, we were looking at maybe needs that they had here and what they would pick here.
Right.
Depending on what they needed. And we looked at wide receiver a little bit here, too. We looked at some of the guys here. Again, you got Devontae Parker here, who finally had, a healthy, good year here, so we could see a little bit of what we had expected, that we kept saying, oh, here he is. Yep. And then Will Fuller, that is a bit injury-prone, too, but a nice number 2 position here for them.
A really good addition if he can stay healthy.
But, yeah, again, when you look at some of the other spots, I mean, they've filled a lot of spots the previous year with all the draft picks that they had here. So this one was a tough one for us to go over and take a look at, Joe, but how do we break down the whole Miami Dolphins here on this pick?
for the Dolphins, like Jim mentioned, they have receivers. They got Preston Williams, who's coming back from injury. They have Devontae Parker, who had a really good year last year. And they ended up picking up Will Fuller, which is a very explosive athlete at receiver. If all three of these guys can stay healthy, I know it's a big if, everybody, but if they can do that, that is already a really nice setup for Tua. You know what I mean? They already have their quarterback in Tua. They went deep in last year's draft, and they drafted Austin Jackson to play left tackle for them. And they also drafted Robert Hunt in the second round and had him play right tackle for them. Robert Hunt originally was a guard, a very big guard, but a guard for Utah. And I just feel like with Penei Sewell sitting there, why wouldn't you just further bolster and strengthen your offensive line to help protect Tua and open up these running lanes with another lineman? So the pick is in, and it is none other than Penei Sewell.
Yeah,
I mean, Penei Sewell going to Miami. This, to me, just makes all the sense in the world. Fill another weakness on this offense, because you look at their defense, and their defense is pretty darn good. I mean, very young, but very good. Their secondary is really super good. You know what I mean? Their D-line is young. Their linebackers are young, but really good. I mean, so they got a lot of young pieces on that side of the ball that are really starting to show up and show out. And why wouldn't you just keep adding to this offense now and make this whole team very
Right,
dangerous?
and what's up with the Eric Flowers trade towards the end of this whole deal? Did they have some type of scheme or mastermind plan in the works? Are they going to shift the line around and possibly now go for tackle, place him in to cover that situation, put somebody else in the guard spot where Eric Flowers was?
So
to
Eric
help
Flowers,
this spot?
it just creates a hole. It's just another hole that they're going to have. Because they already had Flowers there. Robert Hunt would shift from right tackle to right guard, not necessarily left guard. They're still going to have to fill that void, which they can because they have like 20,000 picks in this year's draft. So they definitely can address that later in the draft. Offensive line is super deep this year, so that's not really a concern. But as far as that trade goes, I think it was just they just wanted to add another draft pick. Well, actually, they didn't add it. Actually, the way the trade went is that all they're doing is swapping six rounders to make that acquisition go through, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Eric Flowers played for Washington a year prior. You know what I mean? Then Washington let him walk out the door in free agency, go to the Dolphins, and now Washington's like, oh, we had to change your heart. Can we trade for him, please? Can we bring him back?
And Cody chimes in. He said he had the Dolphins picking Devonta Smith and gave them a legit number one receiver who's hopefully better at staying healthy than Fuller and Parker. And we debated that too as well. And we weren't sure how we were going to ride on this because, again, everyone we went through, we had a strong debate. And you'll see where Devonta Smith goes later on. But we had maybe had conversations about health situations too, and because of his stature and his frame too as well. So maybe they wouldn't grab him because of the issues that they have on injuries here with this team, with these wide receivers in particular. That was something that was discussed at times. I mean, I like the pick too as well. I don't blame them if they do Devonta Smith too as well. So Cody could be right there too, because they need weapons here. Definitely too, but like we had also said, they had Preston Williams here, who looked like he was an up-and-coming guy for them too. So, but yeah.
Well, but the biggest thing for us when we were talking about this and debating it a little bit is you win games in the trenches, and if you have holes still on that offensive line, with a guy like Penei Sewell, it's hard to pass up. Receivers, you can always kind of find them, and don't get me wrong. Devonta Smith is a very special player, highly talented receiver. But there are a lot of concerns about his size going into the NFL, if he's going to be able to sustain and stay on the football field.
Absolutely, and that brings us next up to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are now on the clock, Joe.
And I hope they don't fuck this up. Because honestly, they have a laundry list of needs. I mean, you could pick literally any defensive player, any offensive player, and it's an improvement. Jared Goff, they got in a trade. Something to look into right here is Jared Goff, they get in a trade. They trade away Stafford to the Rams. But it wasn't just about swapping quarterbacks. The Lions also managed to get not one, but 2 first-rounders in the future. So they are stockpiling draft picks right now. They have a quarterback in Jared Goff who happened to be younger than Stafford. Now he comes over and he's a Detroit Lion. They have a running back field. You know, they have Darius Swift, DeAndre Swift, and they have now returning
Kerryon Johnson.
Kerryon Johnson, that's what it is. And TJ Hawkinson, a tight end. So they got a couple. Maybe they could use a right tackle, but you wouldn't take that at 7. It's a little too early, I think. But also, you need to give, like Stafford was missing out on receivers. You know, Golden Tate leaves, Marvin Jones the only guy around, then now he's gone. So now they're literally left with like hardly anything. And they did sign in free agency a couple of guys to kind of help out. But
Rashad Perryman, Tyrell Williams. Yep, yeah, absolutely.
So Tyrell Williams coming back from a major injury. You know, Rashad Perryman had a small stint with the Jets. He did okay, but didn't do great. But yeah, I think all in all, it points to adding a wide receiver weapon for none other than Jared Goff really help this offense.
Absolutely. Yes, like you said, they need help on defense, too, as well. We looked at some of the guys there, too. Last year, they ended up getting Jeff Okuda here in the corner situation. They add Michael Brockers in the offseason, too, on that line, too, in a trade. So
also from the Rams.
Helping out that, from the Rams,
Is there a pipeline?
Trying to maybe bring those guys together. But, yeah, we looked at the situation here at wide receiver. If happens to one of these guys go down again, who is really stepping up? And it seems like really nobody. But the pick is in. Joe, who are the Detroit Lions picking here with the, the seventh overall pick here?
Well, they're taking Devonta Smith, of course.
All right, there you go.
So,
wide
Devonta
receiver.
Smith from Alabama. He's going to go to the Detroit Lions at 7. And that's if. Now, this is why, I brought up the whole trade with Jared Goff. They could very well go. I would not be shocked if they go quarterback here to kind of get ready for the future. And there's a guy by the name of Trey Lance who needs some grooming. You have Goff right there. You can groom Lance with this. And going into the future, you're going to have 2 first-rounders in 22. You're going to have 2 first-rounders in 23 to help bolster and build around a guy like Trey Lance for the future in this team. So not out of the realm of possibility. They could go Q, but we have Devonta Smith going right here to the Detroit Lions, adding a big-time weapon.
All right, Cody chimes in. He said, I was close. I already had him picked in mind, so then I had him picking Waddle. Okay, so there you go. So he had already picked so he was already gone off the board, so he couldn't get him. Yep. So he went with the next wide receiver who he played on the opposite side of, and that was Waddle. And what's funny is when Joe and I, when we did this debate too, we were basically flipping a coin. Was it going to be Waddle or was it going to be Devonta Smith on this one? So it could have been Waddle altogether here too. So we would have been on the same page with you there too. But then that would have meant also that Devonta Smith drops down a little further.
Shout out, we got Peter Knapp watching. We got Donald Spence. And we also got Adam taking a look-see here.
All right.
So welcome to the show, guys.
All right, definitely. All right, so
and also Isaiah Everett is watching.
Excellent. Well, thank you for watching with us. So, all right, let's take a look at what we have here too. Next up is the Carolina Panthers, Joe. But we happen to throw a hole in the mix here, and we wanted to throw a trade in there. So we threw a trade in this whole thing.
This would be the perfect spot.
This is a spot. We heard rumors about it. So now on the clock is the New England Patriots. They jump up into the mix here. I forget what the trade was. Do you have that in front of you? I think do here.
The trade would be a first and a second rounder this year.
First and second
to move up from 15 to 8 to consummate that trade. Now, it's a little loosely, it could be more picks. It could be more middle round to like the rest of the draft type of thing, and they could hold on their second rounder. Maybe it's future picks, but we kind of just try to keep it simple here. And as far as like the trade value chart goes, and what we think would be comparable to moving up those spots, it'd be a first this year and a second this year.
Right, yeah, so that's what we did. That seemed like it was fair for that. We've heard the rumors, again, that they wanted to try and move up. They are not sold on Cam Newton. They put him in there because, again, he knows the system from what they had. They didn't work out so well. But they also, with the pressure from the fans now, they have fans that now have been used to winning for the past 10 to 20 years, and they miss the whole Tom Brady thing and stuff like that, so they have to answer to that. So this year they've gone all in, thrown all kinds of money here on the free agency, and now they're looking here with they're this close to get maybe that stud quarterback here for them for the future to run Josh McDaniels' offense. But what quarterback is it, Joe? We shall see. And here it is. The pick
before
is
we
in.
get to it, the New England Patriots. Here's the biggest thing: is last year they tried to get away with just adding any kind of veteran quarterback and brought him in. They thought Cam Newton was going to work out. It was a disaster from the start, all season long. They had to manipulate their offense, which normally they don't do. Like you either learn the offense or that's it. And they tried to make it work that way, and it still couldn't work. So, seeing that they couldn't get guys like Andy Dalton in free agency, he was kind of picked up right away pretty quickly. And other guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick, they have to now put everything going towards the draft, and they have to do everything they can to nab that franchise quarterback. So this trade And in all honesty, after everything they've done in free agency, they've filled massive needs on defense. They've filled needs via trade and a couple of re-signings on offense. So the only real big weakness right now for the Patriots is quarterback. So the quarterback is none other than Mac Jones from Alabama. At this point, you guys all probably guessed that now that you saw that we had the Patriots trading up. But Mac Jones gets picked right here, kind of like the perfect fit. You know, Mac Jones, very smart quarterback. He's more athletic than he looks. He's really accurate, has a strong arm, is a quick decision maker. He processes very quickly, which is exactly what the Patriots offense needs. He could very well be Tom Brady 2.0. We'll have to wait and see if that develops and happens, but the Patriots get their quarterback here. Now, if this does in fact happen, now it's going to be a quarterback competition going to the season. I know you don't normally want to throw a guy in there, but if Mac Jones can dissect this playbook and get ready and just flat out beat Cam, you could be seeing Mac Jones stepping out onto that football field.
Absolutely. And I look at it this way too, the Saban coaching tree right there, you know, Bill Belichick, that offense, that kind of dink and dunk, but then they can beat you over the top two once you move up too much. I think he fits up with that system absolutely perfectly. The way he was doing it in Alabama too, his average yards per pass attempt was about roughly over 10, barely over 10. So I mean, it was kind of like the short passes to open up the passing game and spread out the field for them. I think it's the perfect type of guy for them. Not so much as even a project too. This guy is plug and play, ready to go. I think it just only makes sense for this organization so they can start moving forward and try and get back into their winning ways. And again, remind you, even we talk about the Patriots like, you know, all life is over for them, and like they just barely missed the playoffs last year too. So it's not like they were absolutely putrid. So they can bounce back on this. They get more free agents signed here, and some of their veterans come back too that took a year off because of the COVID situation. So they take the trade, move up.
So far,
great spot. They get their guy.
Exactly. So far, they've had a really impressive free agency. Now let's see if they can do it in the draft.
Absolutely. Here we go. They haven't had a first even for a while. Like they have one here and there, but a lot of times
they
either
trade away.
They either trade it away
Yeah.
or they lose it because of penalties and from having to pay Roger Goodell for cheating. So there you go. And so that brings up next the team that they just kind of screwed over, I think, in a sense here, the Denver Broncos. They leapfrogged them because they know that maybe their guy was not going to be there, so they had to pull the trigger on this one. That's why we even said, let's do this trade here, just throw it around here. Maybe I think Joe just secretly wanted to try and screw over the Denver Broncos, but we shall see. So
I don't think
the
it
Denver
really screws
Broncos,
them over, though.
No, I hear you, though. So the Denver Broncos, again, we've heard some of the needs that they potentially want. You know, even on the defensive side of the ball, they're not happy even with their quarterbacks. The situation now, they're ready to sell the farm on him. So do they go quarterback in this one, Joe?
Well, this one, it could go a couple different ways. And I feel like it's going to be kind of like a tug-of-war battle between the brand-new GM and Vic Fangio, the head coach. Vic Fangio loves defensive players, and there's a couple of really big impact players that they could get right here at 9. I know Vic Fangio is going to want them. He's going to want a guy like Micah Parsons. You know, he's going to really be, urging that they could take him. But they also do still need a quarterback. I'm sorry, Broncos fans, but Drew Lock is not going to get it done. We've seen flashes of him of doing something really great. We've also seen a lot of, not so good plays. Bad judgments, that throwing the ball into coverage, just taking too many chances all in all. So right here happens to be there's another quarterback that is worthy of this pick. He's sitting right here for them. It could be Trey Lance. It could be Micah Parsons. We'll have to wait and see. Is the pick in yet?
The pick is in now, Joe.
All right.
All right, so let's unveil the pick. Who do the Denver Broncos go here with pick number 9?
So after a little bit of a tug-of-war, they go with a quarterback for the future in Trey Lance. So Trey Lance from North Dakota State is now a Denver Bronco. It is a need. It's definitely. Now, here's going to be the thing that with Trey Lance is This is not a guy whose quarter is NFL ready to just step on the field week 1 and take the team, by the horns and say, I'm going to lead it and we're going to be good. Trey Lance still needs to further develop. With North Dakota State's offense, they did a lot, and I mean a lot of running. There's not a whole lot of tape of him throwing the football. So with that, they're going to have to really work on his throwing mechanics and everything else, his decision-making, his footwork. All that stuff's got to get up to speed for the NFL. And in the meantime, it looks like Drew Lock might be there for one more year. But recent news has said that there has been a trade today. Teddy Bridgewater has been traded from the Carolina Panthers to the Denver Broncos.
That's right.
For a 6th rounder. That's it, guys. A 6th rounder. So
imagine how much that guy, his story has been up and down, man.
So Teddy Bridgewater comes over. I know what everyone's saying, like, yeah, they got Teddy Bridgewater now, though, so they're not going to take quarterback. I wouldn't say that. I mean, the Broncos are right now picking up there at 9. They could get a guy possibly like a Trey Lance to slide to them, maybe Mac Jones, maybe somebody else. We don't know. But if this scenario does happen, even though they have Teddy Bridgewater, I feel like by that trade, by bringing Bridgewater in, that kind of brushes off Drew Lock altogether. You know what I mean? Where it's going to be a quarterback competition, but really, we brought Bridgewater to be the guy for this year. And if it happens for Denver and Trey Lance is there or somebody else, I still feel like they're going to take that future quarterback anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Saying about Lance having the physical tools that he has and everything, and takes care of the football, especially that's something that they need for that situation in Denver. And what better to bring in on that trade? You get Teddy Bridgewater again. He's going to be your pun intended bridge quarterback, I guess, here. That's going to go in. Again, try and work hard, be the starter there, and then have this guy learn under him and potentially be your next starter. So, I mean, that's a perfect situation here. And you didn't really give up a lot for Bridgewater at all.
I mean,
0.
And that's the craziest thing about trades now in the NFL is if it's a veteran, you usually can get him pretty cheap regardless of name.
Right.
You know what I mean? Regardless of the star power of the name. Like J.J. Watt, you know, if Houston was smart, they could have traded him before free agency even got here, or before they decided to cut him, and just taken a 5th rounder or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's a better situation than what they set up before with the Joe Flacco situation coming in there. So it's a totally different situation that they had there. So, all right, so that brings us up into the 10th overall pick, and we have the Dallas Cowboys here now on the clock, Joe. The Dallas Cowboys, we've heard how much they love Kyle Pitts, but you know what? In our draft board, he is not there anymore. They did not pull the trigger trying to get a trade to get up in there, too, as well, to get him.
I mean, Jerry
so
Jones.
There will be no sugar plums dancing in Jerry Jones's head on draft
Definitely
night,
not.
which is good.
Definitely
I don't
not.
think I want to imagine that.
And
That's
as much
creepy.
as Jerry Jones was absolutely in love with Kyle Pitts and wanted to trade up, he also did say that he's not going to give up the farm to move up just to get one guy. So we all know if that's not the case, then that's not even happening. So Dallas Cowboys here at 10. What could they go for? I mean, me and Jimmy both have said for a while now that they got to start rebuilding this offensive line. That's something that they could look into. I know Dallas fans, you'd be upset about that because what you really want is you want one of these stud corners. And I understand that defense has many holes, but so does your offensive line. So you don't have the healthiest of guys returning this year. How much longer can Tyron Smith make it last? You know what I mean? Everybody's getting older. Zach Martin's
that's
even
the
getting
thing
older.
here. Yeah, that's a surprising thing here too.
And that's all of all those things put together. I'm sorry, but I have never seen the Cowboys offensive line look as kind of like Swiss cheese as they do this year on the offensive line. So I just think that maybe they got to get back to that big time, stud offensive line, get that back rolling again, and maybe take an offensive lineman here. But also, everybody's screaming and saying there's no way that they pass up on a guy at corner, maybe safety, just some kind of an impact defensive player.
Yeah, I mean, this was a tough one for us here, too, because, again, we had to take a look at the offensive line, like you said, which just needs to be addressed, but you also look at value that's out here, too, and other things that they had problems with last year. What did you see? That the teams were starting to unload on them and on this defense, and the Dallas Cowboys couldn't put up the points quick enough to combat what the other teams were doing to them. They were just scoring at will. Maybe it was just overall head coaching situation and hired the wrong DC initially and things like that. They seem they try and change that situation there for them. But again, they let some of their corners go a year before and things like that. Some of those guys that they had.
I mean, Byron Jones went in free agency because they couldn't afford him. They simply couldn't afford to keep him. So he went to free agency and then he signed with the Dolphins. But this year, they lost even more talent. So I know as bad as they were last year, all those starters are gone. 3 starters out of the secondary are gone in free agency. So now they got like nobody. They do have a couple of youngsters that hopefully they can develop and maybe they can rise up. But nonetheless, a lot of needs here. And even though their offense looks great, like weapon-wise, they got their quarterback, they got Zeke. But if you have no defense, you can't win games.
Absolutely. So that leads us here. The pick is in, Joe. So who we go here for the Dallas Cowboys with the 10th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft?
So as much as I want to take an offensive tackle for them, as much as I do, we decided field goal kicker.
Yes.
That's right. That's what they're missing. But no, all jokes aside, it is cornerback Patrick Surtain II. From Alabama. One of the most polished corners coming out in this draft, a guy that you really can't find a major weakness, if any weakness at all. Patrick Surtain is just, he doesn't have anything in his game that gives you any kind of concern. Extremely healthy, can play in zone or man. But with Alabama, you got to remember, they didn't play a whole lot of just straight up man. So that's going to be something that you got to keep an eye on going into the NFL. Is the Cowboys going to switch it up between man and zone? Are they going to play predominant zone? But Surtain is the pick. Cowboys fans elated. They add a defensive playmaker.
Rejoice.
Exactly. But me and Jim really do think that it wouldn't be that out of the element is if the Cowboys, if a team wants to trade up too here, they could still trade back a tiny bit and still get an offensive lineman too.
Right. Yeah.
So keep an eye out. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow night, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to find out all
down.
the answers from every team.
Yeah, and even before it gets kicked off, we're going to go live again for a little bit too at where our little spot is, and we're going to debate this again right up until it starts up. So it's going to be a lot of fun with everybody. How are you guys doing so far in your draft boards? You guys along with us here too? You got something completely different? Let us know in the comments section. Definitely.
Also,
drop us a hit down there.
just let us know, your team, what you think what positions you think they should go for, and if you have a name
Rep
or
your
two
team out there
or whatever that you're interested in, put them in the comment section below. Let us know what you think your team is going to take.
All right, that means the New York Giants are on the clock, Joe. Again, they were pretty busy in free agency as well, and that's one thing I like about Dave Gettleman here too. Despite of some of the misses that he's had,
not sitting on his hands.
He just sits there and he's like, "We need one of these guys. I'll grab all of them to see which one sticks or whatever." When we went down running back, Saquon's down. He grabbed everybody and their uncle's uncle to come in here and see if they could make it work.
Freeman new life.
Yeah. This guy, try to figure this guy out. I don't know.
Right.
People and the fans had asked, get Kenny Galladay. Boom, he goes and gets him for him. Like, what else do you want? He's like the genie right now. He is granting your wishes. But he's sitting here at the 11th overall pick. Said he's trying to trade in and out. I'm doing what I can. My hands are tied, whatever. I'm trying to get this and that. What are they going to do here at the 11th spot, Joe? I mean, do we go offensive line here? Do we need to fix this offensive line? Still situations that they're uncertain about. Do they get another weapon? A lot of people have been asking about getting weapons here because, again, they don't trust the health of Sterling Shepard. He hasn't been completely healthy all the time. And even Evan Ingram right there, health issues, drop issues. And John Ross, they bring him in. He's a nice little situation here, too. But we've been asking to see what John Ross can do for us lately, and it hasn't been there.
Yeah, and the thing is the organization right here for the Giants, they're kind of like split 3 ways. on this decision right here. Micah Parsons is one guy his name is being thrown around. You also have guys like Devontae Smith. If he's there, they could add a big-time weapon as on top of having Kenny Galladay there and Sterling Shepard, and then you place another big weapon besides Darius Slayton. So a lot of different ways that they could go. The Giants aren't as bad as people think. They do have talent. Their defense last season, all the way up to the end of the season, they were kind of lights out with the unique additions that they made, and now adding a guy like Adoree Jackson to play the opposite corner spot of James Bradbury. This defense is looking like a really solid defense coming into this year, and now really all they have to really concentrate on is offense. But again, the organization is split three ways. One side wants Devontae Smith or a playmaking receiver like a Jalen Waddle. Another wants Micah Parsons, and they want that 3-4 outside linebacker to rush off the edge to add him to this defense and make it even more dangerous. But all in all, the Giants are going to select Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State. I just think that Micah Parsons is a unique prospect. He is the absolute best at stopping the run. He's the absolute best linebacker at rushing the passer, but he's not great in coverage. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, he has to fall into a team that is going to run a 3-4 scheme to allow him to really attack the line of scrimmage and get after the ball carrier. So Micah Parsons to the Giants, this to me seems like it's just 100%. It's almost guaranteed, I think.
Yeah.
And we did debate about possibly taking Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, for them to kind of bolster this offensive line, add some youth to it. But like you were telling me, they restructured Nate Solder's contract. They like Nate Solder playing right tackle for them, and it looks like they're going to roll with him at least for this year.
Yeah, they're still going to roll with him. What they're doing there, too, again, they're deep on corner still, I think, even though you're hearing that their corner is a need. But I hope this situation, if they go and get him, they get some of that pressure here, not just relying on, say, Leonard Williams to try and get the pressure and sacks.
This dude's a bad man.
Yeah, I mean, and have him there, too. And then also that means maybe that they don't need to leave Jabril Peppers up there as a safety blitz all the time, and that's a liability back there, which I think if you keep him back there and you got your true safeties back there covering, it's just a better situation and you less chances for bigger plays to happen where they got burned last year multiple times. So I think overall that would just help again. And yes, you say their defense was good, but you even add that too as well, get another pass rusher there with you, then it'll be nice. And then you can compete with what Washington's doing here. Now you just defense. Look at that offense and what they have here, too. You can still potentially get another weapon in the second round and see what you can do there moving forward. So a lot to see with the Giants again. Who knows? It could be go opposite way. Fans could rejoice. Fans could be disappointed.
Or divided.
So who knows? And some people don't even know who some of these guys are, so check them out. What do you think? Check it out. Look what you got here. All right, here we go.
Just want to give a quick shout-out to Joe Semino. Thanks for watching the show, buddy.
All right, absolutely. All right, so that moves on to the Philadelphia Eagles here on the next pick here. They are on the clock with the 12th overall selection. Now is really interesting because our draft so far has really just jacked up a lot of other people's mock drafts because there aren't really a lot of quarterbacks left over here. At least the top echelon here is gone.
There's none.
Yeah, so I mean, they wanted to go quarterback. So I mean, and they
stated that. I mean, that's the thing is it was kind of like they said the team said this, but is it 100% true? Being close to the draft, it's kind of like you got to take everything like a grain of salt. So if they were interested in taking a quarterback to compete against Jalen Hurts, it's just like, how do you pass up, though? Like, you drafted Jalen Hurts, now you've named him your starter, and now you're not going to add anybody to help him?
Yeah, because that's the funny thing too is you're saying you get rid of Carson Wentz, because you're done on him, so then you're saying maybe that you are all in on Jalen Hurts, but then you go and get Joe Flacco, and then you say it's going to be a quarterback competition because every quarterback, competitions thrive, make everyone thrive, But then it's rumored in things out here that you guys need a quarterback too. So what the hell's going on with the Eagles?
True.
I think they're in dismay. They're in a major trying to overhaul here. I think, especially at offense, because their weapons have been just injury riddled. You know what I mean? Year after year, time after time,
or just not productive.
And that's true too. And even here, you're left here with Greg Ward and Jalen Rieger as your guys here. So do they go wide receiver here to help out? Is it Jalen Hurts or Joe Flacco? I still think they got to go right in on Jalen Hurts.
They got to go with Hurts.
You got to just trust in him.
I think they're just I think to bring Flacco over.
Yeah, maybe to help him get along there. But Joe Flacco clearly has shown he's not that type of guy. He's going to try and win the job or whatever. And
I know
he's
that.
not going to help.
But I think to help bring Flacco to sign is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Is they kind of said, it's going to be a quarterback
competition.
competition.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But underlying
So
meaning,
you're
the
not
underlying meaning
chance,
is
buddy.
Hurts. It's really your job.
Yeah. It's the same thing over and over again, right?
But okay, so the Eagles here, we're thinking possibly an offensive weapon. But when you look at took a look at it, they got a lot of returning offensive linemen that were really banged up last year, really hurt and not able to play most of the season. So now they get all those guys back. So their offensive line should be pretty stout now. So offensive line might not be the need here or the pick. Well, the pick is in.
The pick is in.
But also you got to remember, too, they do have Travis Fulgham, who kind of exploded on scene last year at wide receiver, which is really going to help them going forward, along with Jalen Rieger. But even that said, they're going with another weapon, another offensive weapon in Jalen Waddle, wide receiver out of Alabama.
Jalen Waddle falls now to the Eagles.
Exactly. He slides down there to 12. You can't really pass this up right now. So he falls there. Now you're going to have Travis Fulgham. You're going to have Jalen Rieger, who they drafted last year, and now you add another big-time threat in Jalen Waddle. Now you got got three guys that can get on the football field, stay out there, and good luck trying to cover them all.
Yeah, absolutely. And even their go-to was Dallas Goedert there, too, who gets forgotten, I think, a lot, too, at the tight ends position here for that team.
And Zach Ertz has now moved on from the Eagles. Not his choice.
Yes.
It was really emotional for him. He wanted to stay an Eagle for life, but
he knew the writing
was
on
business.
the wall, too. Yeah, he knows how it goes. And so, I think that's a better situation to put your quarterback in and then move forward here. All right, so that will bring on next the Los Angeles Chargers here at the 13th overall pick. The Chargers really hit a home run out of the park here when they went and grabbed Justin Herbert here. He was one of the most explosive rookies out there to play last year, and I love his stone-cold demeanor, too. He was just
ice in the veins.
Yep. And
ice in the veins, baby.
And they really put it to a lot of teams, and they were in some close ones that just ended up on the losing side of it for them. But I see a lot of progress for them moving forward here. But they do have some holes in their situations here. A little bit on the secondary on defense. I would even like that maybe to help out the offensive line, or even another weapon possibly even there too for them. I mean, why not here?
This would be an interesting.
But where do they go here for the Chargers?
I mean, for sure, this is going to be interesting because as much as everybody says, they're going to do this or they're going to do that, they could go corner here. There's still, really good corner like J.C. Horn is here. They could take him. They could go offensive line, which would definitely benefit, Justin Herbert, to keep him upright, to keep him protected. So I think with your quarterback has got to be the most important thing, right? I've even seen mock drafts have a receiver going here as well to give him another big-time weapon. But the pick is in. And we are going to go with Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle from Northwestern. The name of the game is now that they got their franchise quarterback, you got to protect him. And I can't remember the last time when the Chargers actually had a good offensive line all across the board.
Right.
And on top of that, you have the retirement of one of the Pouncey brothers for them, so they're missing a center as well. So that's something that they could target possibly in the second or third rounds. But with this one, let's add a stud of an offensive tackle to help protect Herbert, it's Rashawn Slater.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that again, if you protect him, keep him up, that's what they need to do here inside and out. That will make it work for them, the Chargers here. All right, so next we have the Minnesota Vikings here for them. Here the Vikings. Now, which way do they go, Joe? Here the Vikings.
The Vikings, they could go a couple different ways. We know that they have a need at defensive end, opposite Daniel Hunter. We know that they have a need at D tackle. We know that they got a lot of needs. They also need offensive line really badly. So as long as Kirk Cousins is there or whoever else is going to be quarterbacking for them, they're going to need some protection as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the issues they've had. Yes, I mean, some of their defensive players were getting a little bit older, longer in the tooth. They unloaded a few of them as well. Again, I was maybe looking secondary, possibly two, maybe safety help here and there for them. But, again, when it all comes down to it, we take a look at keeping Kirk Cousins, trying to keep that money protected for them and give him time to throw, because you saw when he was rushed and pressured, making some major mistakes here, even though despite all that, the rookie Justin Jefferson having an explosive year too and on the scene here. How dangerous would it be if he even had a little bit more protection? You're able to run the ball with Dalvin Cook and then hit up those wide receivers that they have there too. So the pick is in, Joe, for the Vikings. And who do we go with here for the Vikings?
It's another offensive tackle.
All right, they're going.
Christian
they're
Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. An extremely powerful dude, a gigantic guy. He's like a dancing teddy bear. I mean, he's got light feet, quick feet. He's extremely strong. He'll bury your guy if he tries to get by him. So Christian Darrisaw to the Vikings. It seems like the most logical pick right here. And I know, Jim, I know you mentioned safety could be a possibility. It could be, but I feel like they still have guys in that position that they don't need to take safety here.
Right.
And corner could also be a possibility, because depending on who happens to slide here, like if J.C. Horn is still here, if maybe they want to take a shot at Caleb Fairley with his medical concerns. We know that's why he's starting to slip and slide down the draft. But we have them taking an offensive lineman to definitely strengthen up this offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great value, and him sitting here, but for them, I think it's a great situation. Always sets them up to build from the inside out. That's what we like to do here as well. So, all right. So moving up too. Don't forget about this team. They traded out here.
That's right. They traded
with
down
the Patriots here. So they traded down. So now it's their pick again to where they're going to fit a need. And at great value, I think, for this team. Again, they move out of that situation. The Patriots get who they want. Now the Panthers are on the clock, Joe. They go and make that trade and get Sam Darnold, like you said. Now they move on. Bridgewater's gone. Sam Darnold's there. They got Robbie Anderson. You got DJ Moore. You even have David Moore over there, too, as well with them. So they have an interesting mix of wide receivers there. But do they grab another weapon here, get another wide receiver here to complement them? And then Christian McCaffrey, also, if he stays healthy, you got him on the situation here. But do they go to the defensive side, too? I mean, they've made some switches on some of these guys, too. They go and get Hassan Reddick on defense from Arizona. And but do they add another piece of the puzzle here on defense to help them out?
I think it's definitely a possibility. And when we took a look at the roster, we didn't really. You look at all the weapons that they got right now. Now Sam Darnold comes down to Carolina, going to be the quarterback of the future. He just kind of is super ecstatic because now he's going to get to play with, CMC, Christian McCaffrey. He's going to get to play with, reunited with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. What's not to like there? So pretty happy about that. They could add another receiver, but it's not a big-time need. So we kind of shifted gears, and we think it's going to have to be on the defensive side of the ball. And why not? Could be a corner. You have a couple corners sliding here in our mock draft. Could be that. In fact, that's kind of where we saw the glaring hole, is opposite Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson, very good corner for them. But opposite him, there's really nobody that's going to strike fear into anyone's heart. So we have them taking cornerback Greg Newsome II from Northwestern.
There you go, Greg Newsome.
A corner who's long, rangy, can play in any scheme. So he's scheme versatile, and he's a very, very good corner. I know J.C. Horn is right here, and maybe some Panther fans are going to be like, why didn't you take him? And the reason why we have him sliding a little bit here is because J.C. Horn, he doesn't really project well into the NFL. And what I mean by that is that he's a really physical corner. So in college, he's gotten away with the lax rules of playing defensive back. He's gotten away with a lot of grabbing and pushing and pulling to stay with receivers and to knock the ball away. Now you come to the NFL, you can't be grabbing a receiver that much. You can't be tugging him. You can't be pulling his arm down. You can't be, being real physical. So that's going to lead to a lot of penalties, and that's why we think that he's going to slide a little bit, and that's why we ended up taking Greg Newsome over J.C.
Yeah,
Horn.
exactly. That's the whole situation with him, too, as well. I mean, yeah, he could stop some guys, but again, look at the penalties, and that's one of some of the things you guys don't see when they look up these guys in the drafts, and how they are looking at that more in the NFL. There's a bigger microscope right there for the NFL than for college, so that could be hindering to your team, so you need to watch out for that. That's where some of these guys we didn't like. I mean, Eli Apple for the Giants, he was one of those type of guys to where he wasn't nowhere near that type of even talent there.
Not
but
physical. He wasn't that physical either, but he was still
But he would have that problem there to where he would tug and pull and try to make things happen, and didn't add it up. So. All right, so that means we're up to the Arizona Cardinals here too, and this is a team that's kind of up and coming here. And it seems like since Kingsbury got there, he's got these guys tuned in. Yeah, absolutely. And they made a couple of different roster changes here. I mean, but I think the addition of DeAndre Hopkins the previous year was a nice mix with this unbelievable receiving core too. Even though you lose Larry Fitzgerald here, they bring another veteran in AJ Green in for peanuts, which I mean, I don't even get that trade, but whatever. Maybe they want another veteran alongside with some of these guys. Still think he has enough to be that starting caliber along with those guys, but I just still feel that with Christian Kirk and you have Andy Isabella there, I mean, you're almost not damaging how these guys can.
You're stunting their
development. That's basically what I'm saying. I'm like, I just don't really like that situation here. But so with a team that's so stacked here on those weapons and stuff like that, where do you think they're going to go? I mean, as a defense, I know also they picked up guys, and then Chandler Jones comes back healthy too. So imagine him out there too as well for a pass rusher, leading the NFL at sacks. So a lot of people don't notice that he does when he's out there and he's productive and playing. But where do they go on defense, offensive side of the board here, Joe?
And not to mention, they also got J.J. Watt now on this defense.
Watt.
They're starting to really build, almost you could say, build a bully. I mean, that's really what they're doing. They're adding piece after piece and creating a weakness into a strength. So by doing that in this offseason, it leads them to have kind of like a wide open, buffet you can pick from in this draft. Now they're not feeling pressured to pick any one particular spot right now. But with the 16th pick, they could go a couple of different ways. They could go defense. They could go corner because now Patrick Peterson isn't there. They could go safety because there's still a hole next to Budda Baker. They could add another linebacker. They could even go offense and draft an offensive lineman here. They could take Elijah Vera Tucker here as an offensive lineman who can play guard and tackle. That's a possibility. You know what I mean? So receiver, definitely out of the realm of possibility here, but the pick is in. It's none other than the best safety on the board and best safety in this draft, and Trayvon Mayrick, safety out of TCU. This guy is an absolute animal. Great tackler, is seen as the best cover guy coming out in this class. There's not a whole lot of weaknesses in this guy's game. He's very in tune safety, and you add him next to now Budda Baker. Now you just created a great tandem in the back end of that defense. They could go corner too, like we said before, but we see him sliding to 16th for them. Why wouldn't you pass up the number one guy in that position?
Yeah, absolutely. Right there. He's there. Number one guy in that position. Lock it down here on safety.
And
again,
it's a need.
It helps out for that defense too as well. It was already been pretty good.
It works.
I like it. I think the way it works, again, in that they're an up-and-coming team. You could see them make a push here to take that division now with some moves like this. All right, so moving forward here, we have Joe's team, the Las Vegas Raiders here. So, Joe, where do you think the Raiders are going to go with here? You know, they've had some questionable moves here and there, but as of late, though, I like what they're doing, and I love the one draft was 2 years ago when they went and grabbed Josh Jacobs too late, and they're with their later on pick.
Yep.
I like what they're mixing up and doing here for the Raiders. Where do they go here? We know that last year that defense was a problem. You went through coordinators and switched that up, but then, you know, I think corner was a situation where you guys were struggling to and giving up some bigger pass plays. Things like that, but is that where they go? Is it the defensive side of the ball, or do you do something here with some more of the weapons here on offense to help Derek Carr?
I don't really think they need to add any offensive weapons. I mean, they already got a lot of young pieces in the receiving core, so that to me is not really a pressure or a need that they need to address right now in the first round. Defensively, that's been the biggest holes is despite some of the names that they have on the defensive side of the ball, they just haven't been able to get it done. Cornerback is going to be brought up because of how young their corners are, and are they fully developed? We don't know yet. But I really think that Paul Gunther's defensive scheme was really confusing every defensive player on what they were supposed to be doing every single down. So because of the confusion and everything, now you bring in Gus Bradley. He's going to simplify everything. He does more of a cover 3, a base cover 3. He's going to simplify it all for these young guys so then they can react instead of trying to think on their toes. So because of that alone, I think they could go any direction. Honestly, the Raiders, anything on defense would be great as long as it's an impact player. So we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking an impact defensive player right here in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame. Now, this guy is seen as kind of like a mix and match type of player. Some teams see him as a guy that you can move him to safety. Some guys, he played linebacker for Notre Dame, outside linebacker for them. He's seen in this class as the best cover linebacker in the class. He is a little bit undersized at 230 for that position in the NFL, but extremely fast, a punishing hitter, great tackler, and what's not to love when you got great hitting, right? And he's also a piece where Gus Bradley likes to utilize guys that are more sideline to sideline, and he could pretty much move him around based on the scheme that he's running.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, again, it's another hole that they can fill there, too, and help out on that defensive side of the ball, something that they did struggle with last year. So that moves into next. The Miami Dolphins have their second pick rolling up in here. Back on the clock here, too. Where do they go with this one? I think in the first pick, we had them taking, Peneisul, the tackle, and people were asking, or are they going to go, get the weapons? Like Cody was out here. He said, I think he had him grab Devonta Smith here as a wide receiver here. So now they're falling back here in the with the 18th situation, 18th spot. Do they go wide receiver here, Joe? I mean, there's the spot. There's still some good weapons out here, wide receiver. Do they do that for them, or do they go on the defensive side of the ball again?
And it's funny because, we even had a discussion of possibly maybe the Dolphins double down here. And take a guy like Elijah Vera Tucker. They can move him to guard, or they can have him out at tackle, whichever way they feel that they can utilize him best. And now you're talking about a complete offensive line. You know what I mean? Despite addressing the center position, you just recreated your offensive line, and they're all going to be super young. So that's something that we played around with. But normally NFL teams don't do that. I think I've only seen it happen in one draft, and that was with Bill Parcells as a Cowboys head coach, where he doubled down on DNs. You know what I mean? So I haven't seen that since. So I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. So the Dolphins, with their pick here, is they are going to add more arsenal to this offense. Wide receiver Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. And I think that this is a tremendous value for the Dolphins because not only did they strengthen and bolster up their offensive line with adding another tackle with Peneisul, now they come down the draft a little bit. And when you get down here, sometimes guys are just kind of laying around that you're able to take, and it's extremely high value. Rashad Bateman is soaring up draft boards, and I think he's from the start, he was kind of under not really known. He was under the radar type of bit, but now people are starting to recognize him, and I think this is going to be a perfect fit for the Dolphins in Rashad Bateman.
All right, there you go. And that brings up John Turner, our buddy John Turner's team here, the Washington football team, who this year are going to remain that until they either solidify it or they're going to go and select another name that somebody might want to try and take. All right, so Washington football team, the football team is on the clock here, Joe. We saw last year what their defense could do, and even a great story here with their quarterback situation. I mean, they had problems with Haskins, so they move on from him. They get him out of there. He goes to Pittsburgh. You've had injuries back and forth with them. Alex Smith, coming back from losing a leg or whatever, and then he's out
Tremendous
there, was able to get them going and take the division here and then make it to the playoffs and very nearly almost take out the Bucks. I mean, they were there. They were close. They were in it.
They were close.
They just were in it. Just couldn't get it done. And it was a wonderful story for them. But despite that wonderful story on offense, but that defense is a true story. That is, absolutely looking at you. They showed you what happens when they say defense wins championships. These guys are all in on it.
They were winning games.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I mean. So on this side of the ball, do they go offense for them? Because we had talked about how maybe get scary Terry McLaurin with another weapon on the opposite side. Yes, they've brought I think Samuel in there, right?
Curtis Samuel.
You have Curtis Samuel on the other side to help out with that a little bit too. Or do they build up on the trenches here, Joe?
I mean, I would say if they didn't add Curtis Samuel, then I would say that they would be strongly looking at wide receiver. We also know that they're very interested in at quarterback. Now, we didn't make the Washington football team trade up in this scenario because I honestly don't know if they would pull the trigger and give up basically their draft, because they would have to give up a ton to get up to that level in the top 10 to be able to take one of these quarterbacks. We know that they're desperate for it. Are they desperate enough to just say, screw it, we're going all in and trade up into the top 10? We'll have to wait and see tomorrow night. That's why this is exciting. But if they happen to stay at 19 and they can't make a trade happen, there's going to be talent falling right to them. And one of the needs that they have is offensive line. They could still use receiver like you were saying. Also, we took a look on defense. It's so strong. There's really not a whole lot of weaknesses there, so we don't see them focusing on defense. So
and they have some youth here, too, which I think works to their advantage, too.
So offensive side of the ball is where we're going to be looking at, and we have them taking guard/tackle from USC, and if he happens to be there, to me, this is a dynamite pick for them because he can play every spot on the offensive line except center. So he can play left side, right side. He's done it all in college. And he's done it very, very well. So, great pass protector. He is good at run blocking, but he can get a little bit better. So, and that's going to happen over time in the NFL.
Right, and even despite the trade with Eric Flowers bringing him back in the mix and everything, too, this doesn't change even any of that. No. It fits along with it, actually, too.
Because they need more help.
Help. He can go in any spots. Yep.
But I think by, getting Eric Flowers, that takes away that guard void. But now you also, if you can get Vera Tucker, he could be your left tackle because that is a huge void right now for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it works out. Again, as much as I hate to say it because I do not like the Washington football team, great pick for them if it happens to fall this way. I mean, this is why we do it. Right. We try to do what's best for the teams. If it falls this way, it'd be amazing. But all right, excuse me. Sorry, next we're going to move on to the next team, and that is the Chicago Bears. They are on the clock now, Joe, picking number 20th overall here. The Bears, we've heard about some of the discussions that they've had and what they're going to do. Is this it for Ryan Pace? Does he need to just really lock it in on this one? Even Matt Nagy, for this matter,
I would say
because they've been kind of on that warm seat for a while. They've been getting passes.
A little bit warm, but they get passes because the quarterback situation is in flux. Not really sure who their go-to guy is. And I mean, now that they made the decision, now that they moved on, now they got
they've got Andy Dalton and Nick Foles now in that
situation.
Nick Foles,
and they've pretty much already named Andy Dalton
Andy
as
Dalton.
the starter.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to me. Andy Dalton gets another shot of being a starter, so let's see if he can make it happen with Chicago. Bears sitting at 20, they could go a lot of different ways. They could go offensive line. They could go add another receiver, because I've heard even reports also is that Anthony Miller, the slot receiver for them, he's still young, but I've heard rumors that they're looking to possibly trade him. And I don't know why, because I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
But maybe they have other guys in the waiting, that they want to kind of push up. So that could be something that maybe they trade him on draft day for a draft pick or something. But receiver is a possibility. Offensive line, maybe running back even. It's not too far-fetched to think that because we know that Montgomery hasn't been the healthiest running back for them. He's been nicked up every single year. So wouldn't throw that, wouldn't that's also an idea. So but also Chicago could also solidify another weakness of theirs, and yes, it's on the defensive side of the ball, if you're wondering. But the corner, they just let Kyler Fuller?
Kyle Fuller. Yeah.
He left the building, so now they have a hole there at corner. And with the 20th pick, I mean, the guy slid all the way to 20th here.
Yeah.
How can Chicago pass this up? And he fits that nitty-gritty physicality that the Bears love to play on defense. J.C. Horn finally gets taken. J.C. Horn, corner out of South Carolina. It's a great fit, I think. It's phenomenal. So ends up sliding a little farther than people think, a little farther than we might think. But here he is going to Chicago, and what can you say?
Yeah, I know, because even who knows how it even happened too. I mean, we were having debates about what teams needed again and who's out there and why it meant it to that team. I think even when we were talking about corner for some of the other teams, do they need the added maybe sense of possibly more penalties on top of what they had here too? But J.C. Horn, I think even too, that fits like that Chicago Bears defense feel, and there's enough veterans on this team to even help him out with that. And with the grabbiness and things like that, and try and stifle a lot of that. And I think with the pressure that they get on defense in the front, and two, he won't have to worry about some of the being too physical with some of those guys too as well. So I like it. There's great value, like you said, that he fell this far. Boom!
Value.
If it happens for them, it's a miracle for them, and way to go. No, they don't get another weapon too, but I remember the Bears even end up getting, I think, Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers at one point too.
Yep.
So I mean, if he can make him work out for them too as well in the wide receiving core too.
Possibly.
I mean, with Allen Robinson too. I mean that looks pretty nice too. And then add another weapon on top of that would be great too. But we'll see. Maybe J.C. Horn, unfortunately, will not fall to them in this particular draft. And we'll see maybe, again, the same conversation, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy on the chopping block.
I think they have to, overall, this draft, they have to their team has to improve. They have to make the playoffs, I feel like. Yeah, in the NFC. If they make the playoffs, their jobs are safe. But if they don't, I think it's seen as a failure, and they've had long enough now to get it together, and if it doesn't show up now, goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us up to the Indianapolis Colts at the 21st overall pick here, Joe. Let's take a look at the Colts. What are they really missing here now for the Colts? Is it going to be wide receiver? Just get somebody else there too as well. I mean, T.Y. Hilton's getting a bit older. Besides that, you've got Pascal and some others there. But you've got Carson Wentz now, in the helm now. Now it seems like they finally have had their quarterback that's going to be there for a bit and knows the Frank Reich system too as well. That defense is playing well for them. So where do they go here? What side of the ball here for the Colts?
That's the thing. And the Colts, I think, this is a luxury for them. I mean, they do have weaknesses, but with this pick, they don't have to feel pressured into taking anybody because there's so much talent that's still going to be there for them. They do have a need at edge because Justin Houston is now a free agent, still a free agent for that matter. So they still have a hole at DN, so that could also be a target here for them at 21. Also, wide receiver, you think that they drafted Michael Pittman Jr. last year. He showed a little bit of promise, but they still could really bolster that receiving core, maybe add another wide receiver here as well. Offensive line, we also... They have a need at tackle. But with all the offensive tackles on our mock draft, they're all pretty much gone.
Yeah,
they
unfortunately,
could still take one, and you could call it a reach, but there's a kid from Notre Dame, Liam Eichenberg, who I think is going to end up being a really, really good tackle. That's a possibility, but some people might see it as a reach here at 21. So with all that information digested, the Colts are going to go ahead and they're going to select Jalen Phillips, edge rusher from Miami, Florida. This kid is an absolute freak. He's athletic, he's fast, he's got size, he's got strength, he's got all the pass rush moves. There's not a whole lot not to like about this kid. So now he fulfills a need. Also, the value is there for him.
Right.
It just makes all the sense in the world. And yes, they could quite possibly go receiver here and kind of fill that receiving core out. But after drafting Pittman last year, they could also address it in the second round as well.
Yeah, and we looked at value that was there, and also imagining what it would be like with this guy and that team with that defense and the way it would look now too. That would be quite a sight to see for these guys. So I think that's what led us to this as well too. I mean, it was there for them, and unfortunately, like we said, the tackle's already gone. So if you're dealt with that situation, it brings up another idea where you have to go best available or what else will make you fit here. So, all right, so that brings us up to the Tennessee Titans now. The Titans, where are they going to go here for them? They lost a few different players too as well. You know, the Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis is no longer with them as well. So, you know, and they have had situations here on corner too, because again, you don't have a Dory Jackson anymore there too.
Malcolm Butler is signed with the
Butler
Cardinals.
gone. So I mean, so it's either for us. I think it was looking at corner, or we were looking at wide receiver here, Joe. So
Also,
what are we doing now?
I mean, the other thing too is you could also even look at maybe 3-4 edge for them, because their pass rush wasn't very good last year either. Even with Clowney, Clowney had 0 sacks last year. Everybody 0. So. With that not even being improved, maybe they look to improve the pass rush. They could also look to improve the losses of their offensive weapons. Also, right tackle is another need of theirs as well. And with all those, I mean, we kind of talked about it, and we came to an assumption that maybe, quite honestly, there is a big-time receiver for this Tennessee Titans team that I think that they're not going to be able to pass up if he's there, in Elijah Moore from Ole Miss. Yes, you heard it. Another Ole Miss player is going to bond with A.J. Brown, who was also an alum. I mean, that's going to be kind of funny if this all works out. And now they're going to have a 1-2 punch here with Ole Miss receivers.
Absolutely, yeah. Who knows? We'll see what again, we looked at it, and we really like the setup here for them. I think it fits what they're trying to do here, and what Mike Vrabel represents too as well.
I'll say too. The other thing is in college, Elijah Moore played predominantly slot, but he has phenomenal route running ability, and he catches everything, and he's more physical than he looks. He could easily be pushed out opposite outside and do just fine in the NFL. So I think it'll be dangerous.
Yes. So that brings us up to the next pick, and it is the New York Jets' second pick. Their pick that they end up getting from, I think the Seattle Seahawks. It was when they traded away Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
They end up getting this pick here. So now the Jets get to pick twice in the first round. So what else do they need? Again, offensive line would have been something, but again, we're looking at the tackles being gone. They've got their quarterback now, so what are they going to do? They go on the defensive side of the ball here, where they struggle too mightily for them. So where are we going here with the Jets?
The Jets are interesting too, because as we're just talking about it right now, another thing that popped in my mind is they could also go running
back, right? Yeah, I
mean,
it just popped in my mind.
The pick here could be Najee Harris. I mean, if they are, completely confident in taking a running back here, Najee Harris to me would be the ultimate pick. But also, like you were just mentioning, they definitely could go defense. They could go corner if a corner slides there, and Caleb Fairley right now in our mock is still there, but it's mostly because of medical concerns. This kid has had recent back surgeries that he's coming back from. He's still not medically cleared to play for with contact just yet. So that is why he's sliding down the board, ladies and gentlemen. If it wasn't for his injury, he'd be picked in the top 10, no doubt. But do the Jets want to take a shot at maybe Caleb Fairley and seeing if he could stay healthy? That's a possibility. I don't see a safety being, available here, or unless you reach for him right here to pair him up with their guy. So I think that, honestly, they could go a lot of different ways, but we see that there's tremendous value right here with the 23rd pick, and they're going to go on the defensive side of the ball and take linebacker Zaven Collins from Tulsa. Zaven Collins is a absolute freak. He is like 6'4", 260 pounds of linebacker who runs a 4.6 40. The guy's just absolutely dangerous. Sideline to sideline player. When he hits you, you're going to feel it. And the Jets would absolutely love a player like this. They could rush him off the edge. I even think that Zaven Collins could also kind of be in that Khalil Mack role, where if they wanted to at sometimes he plays outside linebacker, and other times he has his hand in the dirt at defensive end to rush the passer. So I think the Jets would be ecstatic if he was there, and definitely adding to that defense. Zaven Collins is right there.
Definitely. I think that's a situation they needed to look at. So now that brings us up here for the 25th overall pick, right? Or 24th overall pick.
Yep.
And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, unfortunately for them too, offensive line is a need, and it is not there in this particular draft the way we did it here as well. So a lot of these things are dropping off. So that's what dictates, those early moves dictate the way this happens for these other teams that finished a little better. So now they've got to scramble around and then figure out, can we still feel a need at this point, or do we take best available here? So where do we see them going if they can't go offensive line here, Joe?
I mean, for the Steelers, I don't know how you don't go offensive line here. I mean, it's so critical to protect Big Ben. I mean, I can't imagine Big Ben getting behind a line without a Pouncey at center, without a guard, without a tackle. You know what I mean? Like, that's over half your offensive line that you don't have. For me personally, I say it has to be offensive line here, depending on who's slid down there. But when we talked together about this, we also looked at something that they could need opposite in the defensive side of the ball, opposite T.J. Watt. They're missing Bud Dupree. He left to go to Tennessee, so Bud Dupree's position is still right there. And why not? Wouldn't you fill that right now? You can go edge, pass rusher right here, and we got them taking the very twitchy, the very fast, the very big and strong Kwity Paye from Michigan.
Paye goes here from Michigan.
Here.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you would hope maybe they could go offensive line here. I'm not sure what position they would go and grab here, maybe center or what. Maybe they have a few. But again, I've looked at the history of this team and what they like to do, and some of the sort of like when people bring up Dave Gettleman and the hog mollies, he likes to get these guys. I think sometimes if Kwity Paye is sitting here with them, I think they'd salivate at this opportunity and grab him and see what that would look like. Like you said, opposite the side of here with J.J. Watt, you've got Devin Bush, who looks like he's surfacing as a good player too for them as well at the linebacker situation. And in Cameron Hayward, he's getting a bit older here, too, on the interior side. Good. Oh, I know, I hear you. But, I mean, I think they're just trying to keep that defense stout and be that strength, and that should, because they trust in Big Ben, and be able to help balance out the act here for them and get their offense going.
Yeah, I just think with this pick, I mean, if they do decide to go offensive line, which I don't see how they don't, but Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State would be the pick here if they're going to go tackle. Or they could take the best guard. They could do a lot of things. They could take the best center at this point. So I think it's hard to I know they would be salivating at taking a linebacker type of guy to rush off the edge. but I think it'd be way too critical at this point with Big Ben being the quarterback to help protect him.
All right, moving on to the Cleveland Browns, and this was kind of tough for us because, again, you look at this team, and maybe a lot of people don't realize it, but I mean, they're pretty stacked. Like they have some nice depth.
They got some talent.
You're trying to find a weakness, and there really isn't a whole lot of them. It's just they need to gel together as a team. And Odell would be nice if he stayed healthy.
The thing is, too, about this team is maybe people don't realize that because of all the injuries this team had last year. And they were like, oh, well, they don't have this guy and they don't have that guy. And that's because they're all injured. Half their offensive line was injured last year. So, I mean, when people said, like, oh, they need tackle, because that seems to be a need that everyone thinks they need. But then when you go and look at it, Cam Robinson's their starter. He didn't play last year because of injury. You know what I mean? And they had, I forgot their other tackle there, but they have starters already in place, so there's no need to go there. Then we looked at their defense saying, hey, they've lost some players over the years, you know what I mean? But they drafted C.J. Henderson, last year, so they got a corner there. They got some talent overall throughout that roster. Now, yeah, could they add to that talent? Absolutely. I think with the 25th pick right here, we both were talking about this. Right here, they could take best available. And I know a lot of people have for the defensive tackle position, which is kind of a little weaker this year. Everyone's pointing to Christian Barmore from Alabama as the number 1 D tackle. Me personally, I don't like him at all. I don't think he's going to be that good, but we're also going off of other people's rankings here.
Right.
And with Barmore still available at 25, Jaguars could take a flyer on this kid, and maybe he pans out for them, maybe he doesn't, but at least it adds depth to that interior defensive line.
Oh, whoops, yeah, sorry, I skipped the pick, my bad. So, yeah, that was supposed to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars grab Barmore. Sorry about that. I forgot that they had that pick in there. But, yeah, so Jacksonville goes there. So, now, yeah, we will talk about the Cleveland Browns just real quick. We don't need to talk about that. We just did, but the pick is in already for the Browns.
The pick is in already for the Browns.
So, who do they have?
Yeah, so the Browns, I mean, their offensive line's pretty solid. Everything's solid about them. We know about their defense. Now they added Jadeveon Clowney, so edge isn't really a necessity this year for them. So we think they're going to switch gears and hit add some more talent at the offensive position. So wide receiver from LSU, Terrace Marshall Jr., who's actually recently starting to get a little bit picking up steam here in terms of traction of people talking about him. And a lot of teams are starting to really like what they see on tape about him. So you add a tall wide receiver to this receiving core with Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham returning from injury. You know what could happen in this draft is Odell could be traded in this draft. It is a possibility because we heard rumors before that they were thinking about it, possibly seeing what picks it could get for him. Could happen in this draft.
Right, and with even the way that Kevin Stefanski has kind of brought this offense too, they are really strong in that running game. You have Nick Chubb, a silent killer out there, and then Kareem Hunt on the other side too as well, to where these guys aren't carrying a heavy workload and still staying healthy and being out there and playing
out there
and productive. So you don't have to rely on, like when Odell was with the Giants, they just had to keep feeding them the ball here and there. But you've also had the talent that you could utilize with him on some of the explosive plays. Jarvis Landry, like you said. But then to add more talent onto this after we already looked at the roster and said it's pretty deep, I think this is a great idea here for just grab another weapon and see what happens. Throw it against the wall, see what sticks. If it helps out even in a different position, whether it be shift some guys to slot, to outside and around, get fancy with it, why not? And then, like you said, if you end up finding suitors for the trade, unload Odell. And
look at what they did last year without Odell.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing.
It seemed like the offense got better without him on the football field. So might be something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us now to the Baltimore Ravens pick here at 27. That's 27th overall pick in the NFL draft here. Again, when you look at this team, what other needs they got? Sorry, I'm just like, I'm going through it here. This is long. We're almost there. We're almost at the end.
We're almost there, Jim. Come on, pep up.
I'm pepping
Let's
up
go.
through here. But again, we've talked about plenty of teams that had offensive line struggles and things. Do we go offensive line here for this team? A lot of people saying, again, wide receiver, get Hollywood Brown, another guy over there. I mean, it's still not enough with the moves that they've made already. Maybe we can do that there for them. But what do we decide here, Joe, for the Ravens on this one here?
So for the Ravens here, definitely receiver is a need. Definitely they could address that here. But if the Steelers pass on taking an offensive lineman, the Ravens, just remember, they just traded away Orlando Brown Jr., so now they have a hole at right tackle. So I just think that if the Steelers pass on him and he's here for them, Tevin Jenkins, tackle from Oklahoma State, absolute beast. He plays sometimes he plays past the whistle, but he's one of those, blue collar, like old school type of linemen. He'll bury you in the ground and keep smushing your face in the grass until the whistle's blown. So Tevin Jenkins fits the atmosphere of a Baltimore Raven. You know what I mean? Very physical, in your face type of guy. So I can't believe he would be here for them, but if he is, it's definitely got to be the pick, Tevin Jenkins.
Right, and it just happened to be just the way our draft did end up out too. I mean, so again, you're going to see a lot of different things happen too tomorrow night too. It's not all cut
There's
and dry.
There's going to be a lot of surprises.
A lot of surprises. And we only did one trade, so there's going to be multiple that are going to happen.
And the funny thing is, our mock draft might have surprised you a few times.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, we're all going to be surprised.
We are. There is definitely something where we're scratching our heads about what are they doing,
Who
or
is
wow,
that?
look at this, or this is amazing. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and we're gonna touch base with you guys tomorrow about that too as well. So that moves us on to now the New Orleans Saints, to where again you look at the needs on this, and they have a lot. Especially now they're moving on. They have no more Drew Brees here too. They have cap problems here too. I mean, they've already tried to restructure some of those guys' contracts here to lessen the blow here, but they were in the red something fierce here for this team. And they lost a few different weapons too, also on offense. So do they go on the offensive side of the ball here, Joe, to help out Taysom Hill, or is it Jameis Winston here as the starter there too? So moving forward, you would think that that's what they got to go here and try and get somebody else other than Michael Thomas and Traquan Smith here on the other side.
Yeah, and it has to be. I mean, they have a little bit more holes in the receiving core. This has to be the pick. There's value there at wide receiver with the 28th pick. It's got to be Kadarius Toney, wide receiver from Florida. Very fast, shifty type of receiver, catches everything, runs good routes. He could get better with his route running, but I think that'll happen over time in the NFL for him. And you put him opposite just about anybody, and he's going to listen. Don't let his stature fool you. He's a very physical type of guy. He's a little shorter, but he plays big.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. All right, so that moves on now to the next, the Green Bay Packers. Same around about time last year, they went and they got, was it last year or 2 years ago, they went and got Jordan Love and moved up to do all that now too. So now you're even having people debate after news is coming out that they are totally all in on Aaron Rodgers, like, oh, he's our guy for a foreseeable future. Are they going to try and trade now? Yeah. Love out of there or whatever. Like, what are they going to get out of that?
But isn't that funny, though? Last year, they not only traded Jordan Love, who is a backup now, they also, not traded, they drafted
him, yeah.
But in the second round, you thought for sure now they're going to address wide receiver. And they drafted a backup running back in A.J. Dillon. What?
Yeah.
What? You had, let me get this straight. You drafted two positions. Backups.
Yeah, backups. Like, what are you doing?
That doesn't help the team overall.
Yeah. It's like you're giving somebody your Madden team, and you're like, here you go, draft guys, whatever that. So I'm like, well, you have your starting guard, so might as well get him a backup or whatever. It's like, what are you doing? No, stop.
We don't think that they're going to screw this one up. They're going to get someone that's going to be on the football field, that's going to make an impact this year and not the future. So with the 29th pick, we have them taking linebacker from Kentucky, Jamin Davis.
That's right. They don't get a wide receiver again.
That's it. Nothing. Because honestly, I mean, at this point, depending on who they take, it would be a reach. So I don't see them doing that. I see them taking something that they need right now, something that could really make an impact. Jamin Davis, a very underrated linebacker, a guy who's going to knock you out. He plays tremendous great coverage. He's fast. He's physical. Great tackler. He just does everything really, really well. So Green Bay Packers get themselves another stud.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with that linebacker situation there, too. Like in another season or so with contracts the way they are, too, they're going to probably have to have a cap casualty there somewhere, too, along the lines, too.
Right.
So if you already fill that spot with a guy like this, I mean, that fits nicely for them. Boom, don't have to worry about any of that other stuff. Don't have to find them then, and then we'll see what happens. And we saw how far they even went despite not having that extra help here at wide receiver. But I don't know. Stranger things have happened.
That's right.
Odell Beckham Jr.'s out there, too, baby. If they do trade out, who knows?
Watch out.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams and Odell.
That would be frightening right there. So we'll see.
Fantasy galore.
Absolutely. So, all right, so that moves us into the Baltimore Bills. When was the last time the Baltimore Bills picked?
Baltimore Bills. I like that.
It was Baltimore Bills. I said the Baltimore Bills.
This is breaking, everyone. The Bills have moved to Baltimore.
See, this is how I know I've been on this too long. I'm just like, let's just move to Baltimore already.
And the Baltimore Ravens have moved to Buffalo.
They should. They should
swap
swap.
teams.
Be Buffalo Ravens and then the Baltimore Bills. I like that. I really do. Because then you're not even on. But they would have to change their logo. They can't be like,
all right.
But anyways, I meant the
Bills.
But when was the last time the Buffalo Bills picked 30th, though? That's what I was trying to get into.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? It's been a long time, but it seemed like they connected here. They finally got the relationship between a quarterback and wide receiver. We've been asking for wide receiver help for a while. I even like their running situation here, too. But, again, what needs can they get here at this particular point in this draft?
I mean, and that's the thing, too, is they don't have a ton of needs.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that's pretty solid on both sides of the ball. They're making a push for the playoffs every year at this point. And now it's like, just take the best available.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I mean, I think it would be amazing, but for them to take a corner here, to bolster the secondary even more, take cornerback from Florida State, Asante Samuel Jr. And a lot of people have him more in the second round because of his stature. He's a little bit smaller of a corner than what people like in the NFL on the outside. But he could play a lot of different roles. Maybe they move him to nickel corner, and that's where he flourishes. Or they try him out opposite Tre'Davious White on the outside and have Levi Wallace and him battle it out for the job. So it's going to be interesting to see, but maybe, quite possibly, that could be the pick for them at 30. Asante Samuel Jr. adding a stud at corner for them.
All right, so then what I meant to say here now, too,
is
when
the
I go
Buffalo
to
Ravens.
The Buffalo Ravens. Yeah, they have a B on there, so they could make it work. All right, so there you go. It's the Baltimore Ravens here.
Gotcha.
They trade back into this whole thing after that deal, that whole thing that the Chiefs have totally won out on that trade here to get rid of their offensive linemen. And now they're back into it again now, so that's an interesting mix here for the Ravens.
I mean, so after they made this trade, they end up possibly getting their offensive tackle with their earlier pick. And now coming into the 31st pick, now it's going to be about getting a weapon now for them. Wide receiver is definitely a major need of them. Now, if they address it now, they got their tackle to protect. Now they add another weapon to them. They have Devin Duvernay and Hollywood Brown still there. They're going to add themselves another guy who is quite short. Don't get me wrong. He's 5'7". I know. Don't laugh. But he plays amazingly big for his size. Rondell Moore, wide receiver from Purdue. Guy is blazing fast. What separates him from a lot of receivers, too, is how quick he can accelerate from a stopping point to taking off is insane. I've seen him make 3 guys miss in college, like all with close vicinity of him, and takes it to the house after that. So a guy who has great hands, runs phenomenal routes. Small stature, but he's built like a bowling ball.
Yeah, and I like the way this fits with this offense, too. I mean, you have him to mix with Lamar Jackson, what they do and stuff like that. That could be scary. So Lamar's going, and he dishes it to him, and then do a little skip, scap, and be done, and be like, wow, what the hell just happened? Just like right in front of us. So.
Maybe they move him to running back. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can't see him.
You never know with those guys because, again, John Harbaugh is always changing the game, too, as well, and what they do and mixing it up over there. So it's amazing what they do there in Baltimore.
We've made it
to the
last
end.
Pick.
Yes,
I'm
we're
proud
here.
of you.
Oh, man, it's rough. This is tough, but we did it. You know, I didn't want to do the draft in the first place, but we did it.
I know.
We finished it. We did it live. We stayed within 2 hours.
And now we'll get to see how well we did.
That's right. Yeah, we get to
tomorrow.
see how bad it is tomorrow.
It's gonna be pretty
you know
bad,
what?
I
I
think.
was thinking, because I always try and turn everything into a drinking game, but I think every pick that we get right, we should do a shot.
Okay.
Or a drink or something like that. Because it's barely, that never really happens.
Let's do shots then.
But I see we're probably going to be doing 6 shots right in the first, maybe, possibly.
Possibly. Maybe. If.
You know.
We don't know.
But amazing. Imagine that. We'll be starting off big and then we'll
and
burn
just
out.
so you know, guys know, if you haven't heard, we will be going live tomorrow night watching the draft. We'll be at my house.
Yeah, not in the studio.
It's not going to be in the studio, so it's going to be very raw, uncut, unedited, in your
right.
face.
Behind the scenes.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're going to have a couple buddies over. We're going to have a good time. Hope you guys join us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Light up the comment section.
All right.
Who you think you want.
Now to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick. The last
the pick
pick
has
in the
gotta be
first
in already.
round. The pick is in. Listen, they just re-signed every single player that was on the roster their Super Bowl run. That doesn't happen normally. AB is the last of them all to sign. He signed today, $3.1 million for 1 year. Could be $6.5 million with incentives if he meets them. But now it's a luxury pick. What do they take? They don't have needs.
I know.
They got a young secondary on defense. They got a young linebacking core. They got young D-line except for JPP.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Who's even
That's got to be it, right?
Yeah. it's gotta be.
JPP's getting longer in the tooth. Their offensive line's already pretty good. They got a lot of weapons. It's got to be edge, the pass rusher. It's got to be the pass rusher. So from Georgia, we're going to take Azeez Ojulari. This guy might not slip this far.
Yeah.
For some reason in our draft, he ended up
Yeah,
slipping
yeah.
this
We
far.
were really in love with
if-
tackles in this one. I think it was
That's
too.
right.
Tackles and wide receivers. I think.
I love my linemen.
Yes, we do.
But
We appreciate the big boys.
That's right. But nothing else to say here is that Azeez, if by some chance he slides to Tampa Bay, I think this would be an amazing value for them.
Yeah, it would be unfair again.
And it would.
It happens to be. That's just what it is with Tom Brady. He just has unfairness written all around him. You know, it's like this isn't fair.
So there you have it, everybody. That is our 2021 NFL mock draft.
That's right. There
right
it is. It's
before
over.
the actual draft tomorrow night.
Oh yeah.
We've completed it. Thanks,
completed
guys,
it.
for joining us. Those of you who have lasted to the end, you guys are amazing. I can't believe you did.
Yeah, and then anybody that just wants to skip forward and see what their
That's right.
team,
See
who
what
we
your
picked for
team
their
picks.
team, you can also go back through and scroll through it tomorrow and
It's
go
fun.
through it with it too as we go over the draft. So
Definitely. Thank
it'll
you,
be a lot of
Know-It-All,
fun.
so much for all your support. Thank you guys for who have tuned in. If you have any friends, family members, anybody that loves football like we do, make sure you send them over our way to YouTube or Facebook, Football on the No Show. On YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all our latest and greatest updated content, as well as become a Know-It-All member on Facebook, Football on the No with Jim and Joe. And you can also follow us on Twitter at FB_no to get some updated little tidbits there. Thank you guys so much. It's been a journey, and we're still going strong.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow night.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.